Burgess. Welcome inside the crazy ant farm, man. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much. Funnily enough, I did a show called Ant Farm back in 2012.
Oh,
Warms
okay.
the cockles of my heart.
Oh my goodness. Well, be warned, ours is crazy, so you got to watch out a little bit, because
Okay,
that's
I'll
who
be
we
ready. I'll
are.
be ready.
Exactly. The E is next to it, man. So you can say fuck however many times you want. You can just say whatever you want. We love it. We love it.
Okay.
That's right. That's right. And by the way, we love the British accent. I mean, we always love that. It's just so cool.
He's like,
I made it myself.
That's right. And so for everybody watching this, you guys, this is our first. Dominic, we just want to let you know, buddy, 4 years doing this, you have the dubious distinction of being our first on-camera guest. So this is pretty
It's an
awesome, man.
honor.
I mean, Dr. Death, how could we not, right? I mean, come on, we had to get you on here on camera.
That's right.
Because when we see you talk about it, we want to see you talk.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about. But we pride ourselves. This podcast is to help up-and-comers try to break into the entertainment industry.
Yep.
So we like bringing guests on to tell their story, tell how they got started. So let's start there. How did you get started in this thing? Was it something you always wanted to do, or just kind of jump into it?
I guess similar to probably a lot of people. I love film and I love television, and I was raised on Transformers and Thundercats and
Yes.
X-Files and Buffy and Star Trek and Twin Peaks. And so I'd always loved storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
As a career, I don't think I took it seriously. I was doing high school drama, and the first year I did cabaret, and I was in the ensemble, and we were singing a couple of songs, and I was like, that was fun to pass some time.
Right.
And then the following year, a high school production of Death of a Salesman.
Oh.
And I played Biff Loman, and God, I would have probably been 15, 16 then, and it was a really transformational moment where I was like, oh man, I really enjoyed doing that, because I'm I guess at school, I studied and whatever. I wasn't very good at doing my homework because home time was my time.
Right.
That's right.
But I learned by doing, and so I was always in science classes. I wanted to do the experiments, and in home ec, I wanted to make stuff. I wanted to make stuff and do things with my hands, and so acting was, storytelling and reading, but getting up to perform, and I fell in love with it. And then I for a time I wanted to do veterinary science, and just out of interest, I mean, I was swinging more towards acting then, I guess. But I went down to London and auditioned for a couple of drama schools,
Right.
And one of them, the one that I ended up going to, I got a full scholarship to for 3 years, which covered my tuition, and from that moment, I guess it was like, okay, well that's
Right.
it. That's
something I can start
3
taking
years
seriously.
tuition, and
Yeah, man.
yeah.
I
Well,
love
and I mean,
that.
you could have merged both. You could have done the whole Dr. Doolittle thing, right?
Could have done.
I
You missed
mean,
your
hey.
calling. You missed your freaking calling. That's very exciting, though. That's very exciting because I am a fellow thespian. My most infamous role was Rolf in The Sound of Music. I love saving people from Nazis.
Yes.
But
Mine was Peter Pan.
Yeah,
the
Peter
green
Pan.
tights. I mean, what are you going to do, right? I mean,
But how do you make that transition? Because, I mean, obviously you're here to talk about Dr. Death. So how do you make that transition from theater to film and television? Was it kind of difficult for you? I mean, you're used to performing to the back row, but now, what's that like being in front of the camera?
Funny you say performing to the back row, because I know for myself, and it's still a note that I get to this day, after being a professional actor for 17 years, is that sometimes in my auditions or on set, I go big.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, my note is like, you're at a 10, bring it to a 6.
Yeah.
And I get that a lot, and I know it's my thing. But sometimes, it helps for playing those characters that are in prosthetics,
Sure.
for those larger-than-life characters. And so, it helps. But one of the reasons I chose my drama school, I went to a place called the Academy of Live and Recorded Arts, and it was actually one of the first drama schools that was bringing in a television curriculum into
Nice.
The sort of the mainstream. A lot of the sort of traditional drama schools were just stage based, and so the drama school I went to had a television component and a radio component and a voiceover component.
Oh, wow.
So I feel like it equipped me. It was more in line with what I wanted to do, because I was, like I said, interested in X-Files and Buffy and you know,
Yeah.
much to the, you know, the head teacher for that drama school for the first 2 years did not like that. You know, he was very much, you know, you should be satisfied going and performing in a black box theater for £5 a night, and that should sustain, the art should sustain you for your career. But it, you know, that's lovely, but it doesn't pay the bills.
Exactly.
No.
You know, yeah, I love theater, and I would love to do theater, but you've got to be able to live and sustain yourself. And
That's right.
you know,
Yeah.
it's a career. It's not a hobby. And
Yeah.
I'm sounding really snobby. I'm so sorry.
No,
That's
it's
okay.
absolutely. We hear that a lot, though, you know,
Yeah.
and people have to realize, because I feel like a lot of people who don't get over the hump and don't start seeing success treat it as a hobby. And you have to understand that it's not a hobby. It's great if you want to have some fun with it and everything, but if that's your
Oh my gosh,
career, it's a career, and like you said, you have to pay bills and you have to make some money at it. And
Yeah.
I don't know if a lot of people know, but when you said you have to dial it back a little bit, right? You go big. You're a rather large guy, right? You're like 6'5", is that right?
I'm 6'5",
yeah.
300 pounds. I'm a big
So you, when you say dial it down, they mean everything, right? Not just the booming voice, but like bring everything in a little bit, right?
Yeah, because I'm very physical too. You know, again, doing creature work or stuff on the magicians and stuff. Because a character is the whole. It's the whole thing. It's physical. Right. It's vocal. It's emotion. It's the whole package. And so I like to explore in those ways. Yeah,
absolutely.
But it, you know, TV and especially film. And one of my acting teachers tells me this all the time. She's like, "Be still, still." Yeah.
That's fantastic. So, wow, it must have been really hard then. Let's just go ahead and transition right into Dr. Death. It must have been really hard for you, who's a big guy who likes to move, who likes to go over the top. At some point, spoiler alert, everybody, if you haven't seen it, I'm sorry, but to put you in a wheelchair. Right? Yeah, you're a quad and you can't move at all.
Yeah, it's tough because, you know, the first 6 episodes, Jerry is... and I talked about this with Maggie and Patrick. He's big and he's a Boolean and he's tactile and he's friendly and he is larger than life. And then this thing happens to him. His friend operates on him and he becomes quadriplegic. And so then, it is a real acting exercise for me. To be there and to just have the power of the words and just my eyes to tell a story. So, you know, I think you learn something on every job you do. You pick up something or you learn something, or it's a lesson moving forward going on to another set. And, you know, I get it. Stillness is power. And it's something that, especially I think for young actors, when you might not have the lines and you feel like you have to be doing something or, you know, it really is. It's just sitting and listening and reacting to what's being said instead of, you know, like, what?
Right.
No, I've done that. I've never done that. I'm so sorry.
And that's very...
Look, now you get it. Now that you're doing video interviews, it translates.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
We can see the motion. We can see it. And I mean, that's so funny that you say that, because I binged watched like the first 3 episodes today. And I mean, when they introduce your character, you're very like, you know, hugging and wrestling and just all over the place with the main character. So that makes sense. I bet it was kind of a challenge to dial that back a little bit and to just, you know.
It was. But it was something that I discussed with Maggie and So, who directed the later episodes, was that I also wanted to have that visual transformation to show that he was maybe even a little bit too big in that first episode when he's younger and in the 90s and he's really all over the place in the
Right.
backyard party. But I wanted to really show that this happened to someone who was that guy, and how much it impacted his life. Yeah.
A couple of questions for you as far as the preparation goes. And for anybody, we dove right in. Dr. Death, if you guys aren't familiar with the story yet, this is a true story, which is terrifying in itself, of a doctor who basically butchered his patients. And the question was he doing it intentionally? Was he just a really bad doctor, just didn't get it, kind of a thing? And we don't want to do too many spoilers out there for you, but it's a terrifying story. And your character, Jerry, is this man's like best friend, his confidant. And even through all the bad stuff, will not betray him, will not turn his back on him. So a couple of preparation questions. One, did you study the real life, man himself, and did you have an opportunity? Because if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, he died while it was going on, correct? While you guys were filming it. And so yeah, did you actually get to meet him and talk about it or no?
No, I didn't. I auditioned and I listened to the podcast. It's on Wondering. You if anyone hasn't seen it or listened to it, I'd urge you to go and listen to that. The first season of that podcast, he was very reticent to talk. A lot of patients came forward and they were talking about the experience, and Jerry did not. He still very much considered Chris a friend, and he didn't want to get involved at all. And it wasn't until we'd been filming a couple of months, and I think in November of last year, they did a follow-up episode that just focused on Jerry, and he reached out to Laura, who did the podcast, and said, "Hey, I would like to talk." And he did that interview, but still, to that point, it's a very emotional interview, and he still said, given the chance, if Chris got out of jail, that he would still like to sit down and pick up that friendship and be friends. And I didn't feel like it was my place as an actor to reach out to someone and dig into pain and misery that they might not have wanted to talk about. It's, it feels like such a sensitive thing. If he was, doing interviews saying like, "Oh man, this man wrecked my life and I want to get the word out and I want to make sure that as many people know about this and I'm really advocating for patient safety," I think that would have been a different thing. But because he still loved and cherished Chris to the end, I didn't want to, step into that and emotionally be like, "Hey, I'm an actor. I'm gonna play you. What can you tell me?"
I mean, total sense, and even more so than your performance, because I think that I connected immediately just because you were so believable, even in that courtroom scene where Jerry is there and he just will not accept the fact that this man could have done this to him intentionally, that this couldn't have possibly been. That's his friend. And you portrayed that so well. The reserved anger, clearly angry, right? But would not bend on that. And you now hearing that, you didn't even have the opportunity to talk to the man or choose to. You just brought that. That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible.
I think my entry point for Jerry, I listened to what sections of the podcast he was audible on, and then I tracked him down on Twitter and I would watch his videos, and right up until the end he was still a larger than life personality, and he loved sports and he loved his dog Stella and he loved his care team, and everything he did felt like it came from a place of loyalty and love. And so that was really my entry point for him. And I mentioned to Patrick and Maggie and Jen and so that I never wanted him to be the butt of the joke, even though he wasn't fully aware of what was going on. And yes, he might have been used storytelling wise for lighter beats and moments. I never wanted him to be portrayed as as dumb or stupid or because he wasn't in the operating room. He wasn't aware firsthand of what Chris was doing.
Right.
And from Jerry's point of view, Chris was like, hey, I'm making lots of money. Come live with me.
Right.
You come live with me for free, drive me around. I'll pay for your food. We'll go to parties. We'll do drugs. We'll do all this stuff. And so for Jerry, Chris was like this giving, friendly guy. He was giving him everything that he could possibly want. So it's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, I mean, something that I feel like everybody can take away from your character in particular, that even though like a crazy situation happened like this, especially with someone he cared so deeply about, and it's a very negative thing, and it's a very something that like changed the rest of his life, he was still keeping that positive attitude, and you portrayed that perfectly. And just to show how much he still cared about everybody else around him and care about life itself in general, I think is a huge kudos to you to like tell his story and to have his story live on.
Yeah, and I love that you said that he was very caring, because he did care about Chris, because he was even like, don't fuck up this marriage, don't fuck up this relationship.
Exactly.
He was genuinely concerned about trying to keep things good for his friend, which is just like crazy. It's just amazing to me. Second part of my preparation question: how did you prepare for the wheelchair? Did you, as far as the quadriplegic, were you able to go to some people and talk to some people that were in that position, or how did that happen?
No, again, that feels something that's a little egregious to open up someone's pain or trauma for the expense of me being an actor.
Right.
I asked on set if I could practice with the wheelchair beforehand, a few days before we got in there, so that we could adjust things and I could get used to the sort of the joystick under the chin. And there's a learning curve involved
Sure.
with that, but and I made it very clear to production and the directors and behind the scenes stuff that I absolutely did not want any behind the scenes footage or any photographs of me out of character in the chat. Nothing that would make the process look like fun, or that it was making fun of anyone in that situation, or making light of that situation. So when it came to the hospital scenes and the scenes that did take place in the wheelchair, I really tried to maintain like, hey, this is something that someone has gone through, and trying to treat it with the dignity that those people that have been through that deserve.
You're a first class guy, bro.
Oof, yeah. I mean,
I
seriously.
just the fact that you did everything that you could to prepare for these things, with taking into account other people's feelings and what they've been through in life, and not wanting to say, hey, I'm an actor, I'm going to dig deep in and bring all this. That says a lot about who you are as an individual. I mean, just very much so. I mean, that's an amazing.
Thanks. It's a very different process. I played another real life guy, Victor Buono, in a show called Feud, and he was an actor and from Batman, and really big in the 60s and 70s, and that was a very different process, because there were resources available to look how he moved, and interviews available on talk shows, in that situation, I was able, his family reached out to me, his nephew reached out and was like, hey, we got these photos that you can look at, we got these stories, like he lived down the road from you in Encino, and so that was, a very outside in process, and Jerry, I think, was a sort of very insular journey.
Sure. I mean, that makes, like you were saying earlier, it's different if the family or the real life person reaches out and says, hey, this is fine, take a look at this and go. That's a whole different, but phenomenal cast that you're involved in, right? I mean, Joshua Jackson, was he as creepy? Like, he was just playing creepy. I'm thinking, this is Mighty Duck. I mean, like, he is creepy as fuck
He
right
reminded
here.
me of like a Norman Bates type
Yeah,
character.
man.
I was like, wow.
Just like, what is going on? And then, of course, Alec Baldwin and Christian Slater, who have been known in the past to play some creepy characters.
Yeah.
This time the good guys. I mean, I'm just like, what is going on? How was that? What was that like on set?
So good. I didn't get a chance to work with Alec and Christian just because of the structure of the show.
Right,
They are
right.
sort of in the present day timeline,
Yep.
and Jerry is sort of in the flashbacks leading up into the present.
That's right.
But oh man, there was one day where I really wanted to try and track down Christian Slater, where he was filming in the morning on a different set, and I was coming in afterwards, and I was like, I just want to ask Christian about his experience on Star Trek 6. But he'd already gone. By the time I got there and got out of hair and makeup, he'd gone. And I was like,
I love it. You're a total Trekker. I love it.
oh man, so much. But yeah, Josh is so nice, and he's so lovely, and also a Transformers fan. He might not like that I'm saying that, but there were days, when I was first getting to know him, I don't know how we got talking about Transformers, and then like I would pull up on my phone and be like, "Look at my Transformers," and he'd be like, "Oh man,
oh shit,
that's
but
awesome."
no, he's a really really nice guy. And a testament to him for when he's in that zone and he's laser focused. And again, similar situation. I don't think I know that Anna Sophia Robb and Christian and Alec were able to speak to their real life counterparts, and Josh did not either. Obviously, again, not wanting to sensationalize someone who'd done such horrible things, and so yeah, but he's so nice and so warm on set, and when you're number one on the call sheets, it's so nice and warm. It trickles down into the rest of the production, and it makes the job really enjoyable.
Yeah,
definitely. That's great to hear. And I mean, with this show having like such a dark premise and such a dark like tone to it the whole entire time, something that we're talking about a lot this year is mental health. How did that affect your mental health, and how were you able to stay positive in day-to-day life?
Oh boy, that's a big question. It was a little bit of an odd experience. I'm based in Los Angeles, and the show shot over in New York. And so, it was a little bit of an insular experience, because I found a little Airbnb in Midtown, and New York was shut down. Broadway was dark.
Right.
I didn't want to be the person that was responsible for shutting down a production, so I was avoiding subways. I was avoiding indoor places. I would go out for walks, especially on the weekends. I would take long walks around Central Park, and I would go out early when the streets were empty, and that was really lovely. But something that I did do for the very first time, that I've subsequently let slip again since I moved back to Los Angeles, was I got a personal trainer for the first time.
Okay.
And I would work out one-on-one with this trainer in a private gym 3 times a week. And I'd never done that before. And I found that so helpful, because I wasn't seeing anyone else. And on set, it was a kind of a weird experience, because everyone is in masks and shields. And normally, you would sit in video, or I would sit in Video Village and watch and absorb and ask questions and be like, oh, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?
Right.
What are you doing? Oh, that's interesting. That's funny. And so there was none of that this time. And I do, now that I'm back in LA, I started off big, and I bought a whole bunch of weights, and was like, I'm going to carry on. And then, your schedule gets thrown off, and then you go and film somewhere else. And I let it slide, and I keep promising myself that I'd get back into it. And I think I might try and get a trainer again, because I wish I had the mentality that I have about acting when it comes to
like exercise,
fitness,
and things like that. Yeah.
I mean, we're going off on a whole tangent.
No,
now,
you're
but
fine.
As an aside note, I've lost weight before, through trying to be like, hey, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to be healthy, and shifting 30, 40 pounds. And then I stopped booking auditions. Because I've knocked myself out of my casting category, and I'm no longer the big schlubby friend guy, or I'm no longer that, but I'm not the lanky, skinny, tall
Right,
guy.
right.
And I'm in this in between space that then some productions don't know what to do with, and they're like, well, he's not big enough to be the big guy, but he's not the gangly weird guy. Okay, no.
Yeah.
And so and then the weight comes back on, and then you start booking work again, and it feels like
It's a double-edged sword.
It really is.
But I'm glad you brought that up, though, because these are things that actors need to know, especially up-and-coming actors, that, I mean, sometimes you get typecast as a certain type of character, and they're looking for a certain thing from you, even when you don't necessarily want to provide that, and especially when you're trying to get better in shape and better in health. And, yeah, that's very interesting. I'm glad you brought that up, because we don't talk about that a lot, so
That's
I'm glad
true.
you brought that up.
Yeah. I mean, when I started working out with this personal trainer, my brief to him, shout out to Alex Walk in New York.
Shout out.
He my brief to him was like, hey, I wanna be healthier, and I wanna do cardio, and I wanna be able to do this stuff,
Right.
but I don't want to lose my frame. I want to sort of
Right.
build muscle as I'm losing fat, so I keep my size and my frame, but also be healthier. And so that was what we were working on, and it was going really well. I'm so angry at myself that I let it slide. But yeah, to bring it back to the weight, I, knock on wood, have been very fortunate enough not to have been typecast.
That's good.
Everything I do, thankfully, is different enough physically or vocally or genre or tone that I don't feel like I've been typecast. But now I am, thank goodness I'm in this position where I can turn down the roles that are like, it's fat Greg,
Yeah.
or it's big Charles, and roles that are the butt of the joke, or
Right.
roles that are just making fun of someone's size, or that's all there is to the character, or you read a script and it's like, Dan sits on the platform working his way through a Big Mac and fries.
Right.
No one could love him because he's so big. That's a horrible. Don't read that.
I love how you slip into the accents while you're doing it. That's fantastic.
Next time I'll do a British check. No one could love Fat Charles. But it's. I've, even at the size I am, and I'm a big guy, going into audition rooms, I've been too big for some roles. I've been too small for some roles. I've gone into some rooms and been like, oh man, everyone in this room is above 6'7", and they're like 400 pounds, and they're looking for they're looking for a pro wrestler, and that's not me.
Oh wow, yeah.
Okay. I've been too tall for jobs. I've been too short for jobs. Like he was saying, that sometimes to the detriment of the industry, that there are stereotypes. And hi, this is Frodo Baggins.
Oh, I love it.
There, a lot of it is physical, and there's so many things that are out of your hand.
Right.
Yeah.
That you could audition for something, and the production could be putting together a family and say like, well, everyone else in the family has brown hair, so it looks weird that this guy's there and he's 6'5" and he's got blonde hair. So I went back into American.
No, you're fine.
Next time.
I just want to be in a room where I'm 6'5" and told I'm too small. Coming from a 5'7" guy, I'm like, wow, 6'5" and you're too small. That must be tough.
It's I remember, and it doesn't always happen this way. Sometimes you go into casting rooms and it's completely the unexpected. I went in when I auditioned for The Flash, and the casting director was David Rappaport.
Yeah.
And I got the script and I was like, it's CW, and again, to my detriment, my head goes to, well, they're going to be looking for chiseled jaw. Their version of schlubby is still chiseled jaw, quarterback, handsome.
Yeah, for sure.
And I walked into the waiting room for that role on The Flash, and everyone there was like model, handsome, and I was like, well, I'm going to swear. I was like,
Yes.
fuck it. I'm just gonna do what I want to do, and I'm gonna have fun. And then I ended up booking, and it was like, oh, well, that's a pleasant surprise because I wasn't expecting that outcome. And sometimes I think when you go into an audition, you say, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna do it and
Right.
have
That's
fun.
it.
Is when good stuff happens, I guess.
Exactly. You got to keep that open mind and that positive energy, because I feel like the casting directors and the producers and everybody who's in the room when you go in for that audition process, they can see how you carry yourself. They can see if you're confident or not, or if you're scared, or all these different things. So that's really good to hear. I mean, especially if you're just there to have a good time.
Yeah, especially nerves. And I found this very much when I was working in England. I graduated from drama school in 2004 and was in London until the end of 2007. And I would have been very lucky if I had an audition maybe once every 3 or 4 months.
Oh, wow.
And so when auditions did come around, you place so much pressure on yourself, and it becomes like, oh my God, I've got to book this one. I've got to book this one because I'm not going to have another audition for another 3 or 4 months. And you squeeze the life out of the audition. And because you're early in your career at that point, the auditions that you're getting might be like 3 or 4 lines. And then you're saying, oh my gosh, do I say either or either? Oh my gosh, they're not going to hire me if I don't get that word right. What am I? And you second guess yourself so much, and you tank the audition, and you freeze. And and then I moved to America, and I met more casting directors in 3 weeks than I had done in 3 years of being in London. And it was like, oh, this is what it's supposed to be like. And then that pressure,
that's right,
lifts, and then you let that go, and you can start having fun in auditions, or I found myself having fun in auditions more.
There you go. That's what it's all about. It's all about having fun, because at the end of the day, you're supposed to enjoy what you're doing, right? I mean, we're not supposed to put so much stress on ourselves. Yeah, but something else new that we like to bring to the podcast is have our guests tell an embarrassing story that they survived through while either on set and or on stage that they can laugh about now.
An embarrassing story. I mean, I have one, and I've spoken about this. I've spoken about this before on other shows and podcasts. I was a big Sunny in Philadelphia fan before I did Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like religiously would watch and rewatch, and then I got booked on Sunny in Philadelphia as Psycho Pete, and I was beside myself, like, oh my God, I'm going to be Psycho Pete, and they've talked about this character, and it's going to be this great thing. And, it was still pretty early. I mean, I think it was the first time that I had a substantial enough role on a show that I loved.
Yeah.
That I was giddy with excitement. And so when I got onto set, I stopped behaving like a regular human
being, shit,
because I wanted to make such a good impression. I wanted to ask questions and be curious, and I was an idiot, and I would just ask questions to things that I already knew the answer to for the sake of making conversation, but the most ridiculous questions. And I look back and I'm so embarrassed that I would be there and be like, wait, hold on, you guys write this show too?
Yeah.
So bad.
Yeah.
And I just didn't function like a normal human being. And I've seen Charlie, and I've seen Rob, and I've seen Caitlin since, and I've been like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just cared so much. I wanted you to know that I cared so much, and I was interested,
That is hilarious.
Do I have any other embarrassing stories?
Or just like one of your favorite memorable moments on set and or on stage?
I mean, how does it feel for a Trekker to be in the Trek universe?
Oh my gosh.
That had to be a moment, right?
I was so good on the Star Trek set because I was so worried that it would become another Sunny in Philadelphia experience, that it would be like.
That's right.
And I was very, very, very composed. but it was such a wonderful experience. It was so good. I'll tell you a funny story. It's not really embarrassing because nothing bad happened. But when I did the Magicians, and I'm in prosthetic makeup and I'm in hooves, and like they glue the ram legs to my stomach.
Oh.
And so it takes so long to get them in, and so then you're you have prosthetic fingernails on, and they like you can't put too much pressure or they rip, and so like you're sitting down in between takes like this, and people are touching up the makeup, and I learned very quickly on that set that when you're in prosthetic makeup and stuff like that, not to eat or drink a lot of stuff on those days. Because at like 18, 19-hour day, you're in makeup for 6 hours to get it in, and then you're filming for another 10 to 12 hours, and then it's another 2 hours to get it all off. So yeah, I really learned to pace myself with my liquid intake on that show.
I see.
Make that what you will.
Also, knowledge for up and comers.
Exactly. Be prepared.
That's right.
Be prepared to sit in the chair, man. That's so freaking great. Well, listen, man, this has been absolutely a pleasure to have you on the show. Again, thank you so much for doing the Zoom thing with us, because that was a whole new experience for us. But like I said at the beginning, this is a show for up and comers trying to break into it, and they're all like sorts of everywhere. You know how it is. So what piece of advice would you leave the up and comers trying to break into it, and what pitfalls would you say to try to avoid?
Oh my gosh, it's such a big question.
I know.
It is, just know that it's your journey. Your journey is going to be so different to everyone else's journey. You could put 20 actors in the same type and category as you. You could put 20 actors like me, 6'5", 300 pounds, in the same room, give them the same auditions and the same opportunities, and everyone is going to have a radically different journey.
Yeah.
And once you start saying, well, why is that guy got that job, and why is it, you'll drive yourself insane. And you'll start to meet the same people. I was talking to Max Adler, who's in my category, Chris Reed, Charlie Coons, all these actors that you see from room to room.
Right.
And, you become friends, and you don't get something, you'll be like, I bet Charlie got that one. I bet Max got that. Yeah, that's network TV. Max will get that one. Whatever it is. To think of it like it's a trope, I'm sure, but it is a marathon, and it's not a race. And I've been doing this for 17, coming up on 18 years now. I feel like, and I'm terrible for this, I'm still guilty of this, that especially when you're starting out, there's this tendency to think that, if I get into drama school, everything's going to be fine, and then my career will take off. And then you graduate from drama school and you say, all I need is an agent, and then everything's going to be fine. All I need is that first TV role, and then I'm going to feel satisfied. And now I just want 5 words. I just want 5 words on a show, and then everything's going to be great. I just want to roll with 2 pages where I can do an accent. And I feel like there's always something else, and I'm terrible at it too. I don't know. I feel like the work just doesn't stop. No matter what level you're at in the industry, new problems arise. You'll come to a place where you're like, all I want is a co-star, and you're gonna reach a point where you audition, and oh boy, then you got to decide between 2 jobs. You can't do both. And it's gonna rip your heart out. And then as you start leveling up in your career, and you start doing guest stars, and then your agents are saying, shouldn't do no more co-stars. And then you're like, okay, no more, only guest stars. And then you level up some more, and then they're like, no more one-day guest stars. And you're like, oh, okay, but I just want to work. And there's always new problems, wherever you're at. I don't want to leave you on a problem. You said it. You said it. Have fun. I love it. I can't imagine doing anything else. And I love it. And if you love it, do it. There'll be people that'll tell you, like, if you could do anything else, do that. But if you love acting, go do acting.
I love that.
Hell yeah.
Man.
Again, thank you so much. And it's all about social media now, so where can people follow you?
Oh, yeah. You can find me I'm at Twitter at Dominic Burgess.
Yep.
And I'm at Dominic Burgess 1 on Instagram.
There you go. You got to have that one.
And you can find lots of good cat content like this.
Fantastic. And of course,
My
everybody
Instagram is just
watch Dr. Death.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure everybody has this, like the most popular show on Peacock right now.
It's pretty awesome.
Just like slamming. So, but yeah, just, I mean, again, thank you so much. You've been an absolute gem. An open invite. Anytime you want to just come back on and talk Transformers, talk Star Trek. you know?
Man.
Yeah.
This is my Blu-ray. I'm a physical media guy.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of... hold on. I have to tilt my laptop. There's a couple of Transformers up there.
There you go. Yeah.
That's not even scratching the surface. There's a whole... Oh, man.
Yeah, we're all about
another
Funkos.
time.
Oh, yeah.
Another time.
Yeah. Well, that'd be fun. We're going to have you back on to do a top 5 or something. Top 5 Transformers movies or whatever. That'll be awesome.
So great. So great. Listen, take care. Enjoy the rest of the night. And we'll be talking to you soon, brother.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Yep. Take care.
See you later.
Cheers.
All right. Bye-bye.
Man, he was an absolute pleasure.
I mean, just this guy's a straight up class act. I mean, I thought for sure. You hear so many times actors, they prepare by, I'm going to interview the person.
Yeah.
Or, I'm going to go hang out at the hospital around other paralyzed people or whatever. But the fact that this guy just, I don't feel comfortable. I don't want to bring that. What a class act.
Yeah,
man.
seriously, especially with it being a true story and with there being so much of that stuff happening. So makes complete sense, man. Honestly, just an amazing freaking interview.
Yes.
Up and comers are going to love this one. Thank you again, Dominic, for coming on the show.